What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about why you should stay away from COPART and IAA. So the inspiration for today's video came from a consulting call that I did on Friday. A gentleman just got his dealer's license in Ohio and decided to go out and buy a bunch of cars from COPART and IAA, and now he's instantly regretting it. Now, there's a lot of things you need to be aware of. We're going to go over all those, and just remember, that COPART and IAA are some of the shadiest auctions you could possibly get. There are people out there that are trying to screw you constantly. There's a lot of things that people don't understand, so we're going to cover all those. This is going to be a very detailed video, so make sure you stay tuned to the end. Now, I know you guys watch a lot of YouTube and you see these guys, oh, I bought a wreck Corvette for 20 grand and I fixed it up. Now it's worth $60,000 or $80,000. It was so easy. It was just a quarter panel. I replaced it. For every one story like that, there's 50 horror stories that you guys don't even know about. So I'm going to go over all the reasons why you need to stay away from COPART, especially if you're a beginner, and if you're a dealer, what to look for, and a lot of the pitfalls that people fall into. First, we're going to start with the simplest one, which is titles. This one absolutely shocks me. Every single week, there are people out here that don't read the fine print. They'll go and they'll buy cars not knowing the title status of their vehicle. So there are several different types of titles. We're not going to go into specifics of all of them. I'm just going to go over a few basic ones. Obviously, we know clean title, rebuilt title, which means it was wrecked and repaired, salvage, which means it was totaled out by the insurance companies. Then there are junk titles, parts titles, and export titles. Those last three, you do not buy. Now, before the keyboard warriors jump in and say, I know a way around it, I can register to my state, I have a guy at the DMV, stop. Don't give people false hope. With those three titles, you cannot register the cars legally in the United States. The gentleman I talked about in Ohio, he bought 2 cars with parts-only titles. Another friend of mine bought a car that's export title only. That means that this car could only be used as parts. You can't put it back on the road, even if it passes inspection, even if there's a very small dent or crash. This particular car with a parts title only was a flood car, and it had very minimal flood damage. I think the line was literally just 2 inches above the rocker panel. But some insurance companies, don't know why, decide to put a car as parts only, not for rebuilt or whatever else. And unfortunately, this is some of the things that are left up to skepticism, where people usually think as a parts car only or export only, they think of massive problems. The car's been rolled over, wrecked, caught on fire 2-3 times. That is not the case. There is no rhythm or rhyme when it comes to insurance companies classifying them as either parts cars, junk cars, or export title only cars. So it's very important that you read what's actually there at the auction. Also, you need to run a Carfax and auto check with every single car that you're thinking of buying, because even though it says one thing on there, like you could buy a car that has a clean title, when you register it, it could have a rebuilt title. It happens a lot with COPART and IAA. So before you go in there getting all excited and happy, know that you cannot touch those cars. It's not worth the headache, not worth the hassle, no matter how good the deal is, so stay away. But first, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Rocket Money. Rocket Money is an all-in-one finance platform where you can track your different accounts and manage your finances. The app lets you stay on top of your finance goals by giving you a clear overview of your monthly income and expenses. You can also manage your subscriptions, keep an eye on your bills, and build a personalized budget to help you grow your savings. Now, thanks to Rocket Money, I didn't realize how many subscriptions I was signed up to. There were actually 20 of them. And on top of that, one of the things I loved about Rocket Money is every month they would send me a monthly report to let me know how much money I was saving, how much I was spending, and what my biggest outlier was. So if you're tired of these pesky reoccurring subscriptions, you can cancel them really quickly with just a single tap. You don't need to make endless calls to these service providers and actually staying on the phone trying to get somebody to help you cancel them. And the best part about Rocket Money is they will actually help you negotiate your bills. All you have to do is upload a copy of your bill and wait for your bill to be lowered. And those that are having a hard time committing to a budget can definitely benefit from Rocket Money as well. The app will actually send you notifications when you're spending too much and helps me compare my spend to earning ratio. So if you want to save more money and spend less, go to rocketmoney.com/Lucky Lopez, or simply click the link in the description below to start your free trial. Join the 3.4 million users already using Rocket Money and unlock even more features with premium. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/Lucky Lopez. Now, back in the day, COPART and IAAI were great places to buy cars because you got a lot of cars for really cheap. But during the pandemic, as you guys know, prices went nuts. So everybody jumped in there trying to buy cheap cars. Now, some of these wreck cars go almost as much as what it costs cost for the car to be clean title without any damage, which is absolutely ridiculous. And their fees are astronomical. You buy a $2,000 car, you're going to have $800 in fees. If you think I'm joking, look it up. I did a bunch of videos like this online. So just keep that in mind. Now, the big thing that people really screw up on is not knowing the actual true cost of repairs. They go there thinking that this car is barely damaged. It's a small front end accident. I know exactly it's going to be a few bucks. They don't bother to check the parts. They don't bother to check the core supports, or even if the parts are even in stock or if they're made anymore. Do not buy these wrecked cars unless you are somebody that owns a shop or has years of experience fixing wrecked cars. I can't stand all these YouTubers telling people to go buy these cars. It's such a great deal. You should never take any of these risks, especially if you think it's a calculated risk, if you don't have the capital or the facilities to buy these cars. I see it all the time in the comment section. People are like, well, I can't find a car. I'm just going to go to COPART IAAI and buy a wrecked one. Don't, because I'm going to tell you another reason why a lot of people get screwed. There are people here literally that try to screw regular people out of cars. They'll buy a car that's just completely wrecked, really, really bad, and they'll Mickey Mouse it just enough to make you think that the car is like a small damage. So let's say I saw this perfect one. This was a Mercedes CLS. It was like a 2020 or 2019, only had like 20,000 miles. And I remember the reserve was like $18,000, which is low for these cars. And so the guys ran it and everybody was bidding on it. Got up to like 40-something thousand. Make a long story short, when they got there, they opened up the hood. The whole front was smashed in. The guy literally took wood and wood screws, screwed in like 2x4s to bolt new fenders on, bumper, headlights, made everything hang like it was lightly hit in the front, but in all reality, it was smashed all the way back to its wheel arches. And so there are people out there that are literally Mickey Mousing cars that are mangled, wrecked, rolled over. They'll push up the roofs, they'll pull out the back ends, they'll even paint it sometimes just to make you think that it's a small light fender bender or small light damage, and basically you're screwed. Now, other thing too, is you got to know the difference between minor repair and major repair. I can't believe I have to say this, but a lot of people think that smashing a car in the front is minor repair compared to the rear. It's actually the opposite way around. When you're smacked in the end, you have your bumper, maybe your taillights, and a few trunk panels that you could pull out with a frame machine. When it comes to your front end, we're talking multiple bolt-on parts, accessories, headlights, grills, radiator, your motor, all kinds of things that make the repairs much more complicated and twice the price. For example, you can smack a back end of a car and a quarter panel may cost you $600 from the junkyard to weld on and replace it. Where you get something that's smacked in the front end, now you're looking at maybe $1,000 a headlight, plus balusters, plus grill, plus AC condenser, plus your radiator, plus let's say it has cruise control, GPS, all that stuff, night vision, there's another $2,000, $3,000. All these things in the front of the car cost a lot of money. So just a simple quarter panel damage looks scary, the whole car smashed into the quarter panel, but at the end of the day, that's actually less work than getting a car that's smacked in the front end where everything is pretty much gone. So you need to know these things. Also, you need to know if the parts are even in stock. I see a lot of people, they buy these cars with the intent of, I'm gonna fix this car really quick, and then I'm gonna sell it and flip it. What they don't understand is some of these cars take months to fix. You may buy the car. I had a video where I did an Aston Martin. The car wasn't even that damaged. I needed a bumper, I think a few control arms, a spindle, and I think front fender. And all that stuff was fairly easy to get, except for when I got to the ABS module. I had to replace it last minute because it just wasn't reading right. That part took me 3 months to get in from Europe. There was no other companies that were making it. It was Aston Martin only, and it took me that long to get the part. There are things like that happen all the time. There are parts that are on national backorder because they're just not important enough to be made in volume. And so you think that this flip or this car that you're buying, a COPART or IAAI, is going to be easy money and quick money. It's the complete opposite. Also, they don't know the difference between repairing parts and replacing them. When you have a car that's smacked in the front, there is a thing called a radiator support. Now, they are not that expensive on 90% of the cars out there. A couple $100, you can cut it off and you could tack weld it back on. There's spot weld holes where you basically drill out and spot weld it through the frame. Very easy to do, not that complicated. It'll make sure that your body's square, and when you put on your fenders, your grill, your radiator, everything will bolt up. But instead, people like to take a hammer and a come along and basically pull the shit out and hammer it all up. Now it looks like hammered dog shit. The top of the radiator support looks like it's crinkled tinfoil. It doesn't work. It doesn't look good. There's nothing worse than buying a rebuilt car, and when you open up the hood, you see stuff like that. That just looks like you crumpled tinfoil and pulled it back out and said, now we're good to go. People get scared, and that's why it's very bad to buy rebuilt cars. During the pandemic, a lot of these people jumped on that bandwagon and bought all these cars to fix, and 90% of them were Mickey Moused. So if you're looking at a car right now that's rebuilt title, more than likely it was repaired completely incorrectly. It has bad parts, the correct stuff wasn't done, and it's just a liability and it's not safe. A lot of states don't even have inspections when it comes to taking your car from salvage to rebuilt title. So that's another thing you need to watch out about. So look at all these cars, take your time, and I'll be honest with you, if you don't own a shop and you don't have a big chunk of money, don't do it. I know it's tempting. You see a 2020 Honda Civic with a wrecked front end that you and your buddies find all the parts on eBay for like $1,000. I'm telling you, whatever you think it's going to cost, times it by 3. That's usually what happens. The insurance companies are really good with estimates on how to actually figure out what it's going to cost to fix this car correctly, and they're not too far off. So you shouldn't do your demographics that far away. Now, like I said, there are a lot of stories out there of people buying cars. I have a few of them myself where the frame damage wasn't that bad. I was able to pull some out. I had a car where it was a Lamborghini where the tub was actually cut, like the guy ran over something and it just cut the tub. Didn't affect anything, but they totaled out the car. We were able to weld it and send it out, and we made some money on it. Now, those stories, like I said, for every one of those, there's 50 to 100 horror stories that you guys are not seeing. So don't believe the hype. Please be careful. Learn about these things. And also, I always like to tell people, drive around your local area, get on Facebook, Craigslist, and look at some of these rebuilt cars. You can plainly see the paint doesn't match, and then go and look at a few of them. You'll see that the core supports or the quarter panel, wherever it says on the Carfax that it was hit, just look at the damage and see if it was repaired correctly. You may find 1 or 2 that are up to par, but I'd say about 80 to 90% of them literally are hammered dog shit, so stay away. But anyways, I would love to know your input of what you guys think COPART and IAAI are. Do you have any horror stories like that? Did you buy a car, come to find out that there was something wrong? I forgot to tell another story. Another buddy of mine, he bought a Porsche, and the back end was smashed, and so he saw the motor in there, the transmission, figured everything was fine. When he opened up the car, it was a Dodge Intrepid motor and transmission. The guy bought it from COPART, pulled the motor and tranny out, stuck another motor and tranny in there just for fun, just so it looked like it was held up in place, and then basically welded the deck lid shut so you couldn't open it. So there are a lot of scammers out there, like I said, trying to rip you off. But if you've ever been ripped off like that, please let us know in the comment section below. I want people to learn from this. Also, have you had problems with titles in your state? And if you're talking about washing titles, don't do it. It's not worth the headache. Like I said, insurance companies will catch it. DMVs will catch it. And I've seen plates being literally pulled off of cars by police because you registered and tried to insure a car that was a salvage car, junk car, or an actual export car. So don't do that. If it's rebuilt, you're good to go. Any of those things, parts titles, junk titles, export titles, don't mess with them. Only use them for parts. But anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.